Today is an audience takes the stage event, which means rather than a single speaker for 30 minutes, we're going to be hearing shorter talks from several speakers. And rather than some abstract theme, each of these speakers will be sharing about their relationship with Tamara Zahn. I'll be briefly welcoming each of them to the mic as we transition. And each of these folks have, they're really going to be sharing from the heart today. So please, listen to what they have to say, soak it in. Those of you that didn't know Tamara are going to learn a lot about her and the work that she did and the work that she put into relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome our first speaker, Barry Wormser, up to the stage today.
Good morning. You guys hear me okay? Let's give it up for Ryan one more time. And the Creative Mornings team. All right, I am prone to weeping when thinking of Tamara generally, so this morning could go sideways really quick for me. So please bear with me as I talk about one of my dear friends and mentors. Ryan asked that I share a bit about Tamara's background and her many works in Indianapolis and beyond. So Tamara was born in Fort Wayne, and she originally started college out at the University of Montana for a couple years, and then came to Bloomington, where she graduated with a degree in real estate, not surprising. So she graduates in 1976 and starts a burgeoning real estate career where she consults on countless projects throughout the country, but also here locally. And so if you were to, say, be a consultant and you work with people like the Simon Property Group, for example, what two projects, if you're an indie person, would be most kind of important to work on? Well, they'd be probably the Circle Center Mall here in Indianapolis, and of course, the Mall of America in Minnesota. These are massive projects for someone who is based in Indianapolis and who works with the Simon Property Group, and of course, Tamara leads on both. So after a really successful consulting career around the country, consulting with downtown groups, she forms what is now known as Downtown Indy Inc., and originally it was called Indianapolis Downtown Inc., and it was the combination of a lot of different groups that had different aims for downtown, different purposes. But Indianapolis Downtown Inc., as it was known then in 1993 when she was the founding CEO, it was really meant to be the main driver for downtown Indianapolis development. It was an advocate for the downtown space, something that really hadn't existed before. And through her hard work over a 20-year career at Downtown Indy Inc., from 1993 to 2012 when she retired, let me just share a brief list of the things that she had a direct hand in creating and making possible in our city. There were 4 Final Fours. There was obviously a very large event called the Super Bowl you're familiar with. In other sporting news, Bankers Life was opened, Victory Field was opened, and a little small stadium called Lucas Oil was opened. These are mega projects for our city, none of which existed before Tamara and her team and the rest of the city of Indianapolis developed these spaces. A little nook called Mass Ave was developed. Fountain Square was developed. I grew up here in Indy. I don't know about you, but growing up here in Indy, Fountain Square was always 5 years away. It's about 5 years away. And then Tamara comes in, and it actually is. It's like made real. It's fully realized as a place to develop, to be present in, and not just passing through. Corporate headquarters were open. Immis on the Circle, Simon at Capitol in Washington, and Anthem in the Mile Square. I am probably omitting a dozen other things that are worthy of note, but that is just speaking to Tamara's nature that she just did all the things. Any sort of influence that she could wield was put towards these mega projects that we benefit from yet today. In addition, of course, to her corporate work, she was a very large contributor to the community in a variety of nonprofit spaces. She helped found the Friends of Holiday Park, It's one of our most important parks. It's a park that's near and dear to my heart. I grew up at 73rd and Spring Mill. My parents still live in the same house I grew up in. So Holiday Park was truly just down the road. And when I was a kid, it wasn't exactly the nicest part to be in. It was a little rough. There was, drug use. There was just loitering, but I guess the worst kind of loitering, where it's really kind of negative for the neighborhood, negative for the park. You just really couldn't spend time there. Well, Friends of Holiday Park redeveloped the trail map that exists today, which is one of the most fabulous urban parks in the country. It also helped develop the beautiful playground area that my kids enjoy today. If you have kids, and if you haven't been, you have to go. I met Tamara through Pattern and our work on the board together. Tamara was the chairperson of the board for about 3 or 4 years. Tamara was a mentor to me, of course. It's going to be a common theme, I think, today, how she excelled at the professional level at the highest degree possible, but she also excelled on the personal level to the highest degree possible by mentoring me and thousands of others, truly thousands of others, and thousands yet more benefit from the experience of having been around Tamara Zahn and learned from her. Tamara had this unique quality of leading by trying to exact the very best out of someone else. She led by supporting you, like in this really deep way. And so she cared both about the professional work you were pursuing together, but she cared just as much about how your family was doing. How are those kids? Are you doing okay? Do you need something? She wanted you to succeed. Now, perhaps against my better judgment, I'm going to play a voicemail that Tamara left. That she left for me after I gave my Creative Morning talk on the 5th year anniversary of Creative Mornings. So bear with me as I play this. I'm so sorry, guys. One sec.
Hey Barry, this is Tamara Zahn. It's about 5 o'clock on Friday, and I just heard that you were a star today at Creative Mornings. Sorry I missed your talk. I would have loved to have heard it, but I heard you were very impressive, funny, motivational, all the things we love about you. So anyway, that's all. Don't need to call me back. Just wanted to say good job. Bye-bye.
That was super normal for her. Those calls, she made those calls whether you had an event or not, whether you spoke or didn't speak, whether you had reason to touch base or not, she reached out. I just want to leave you with this charge. Try something hard. Try something difficult, something that pushes your boundaries, and something that pushes your boundaries in a way that it brings you both joy and is also challenging. Seek out projects that satisfy this tension, seeking both the joy and the challenge, because it is these things that exact the highest and the best out of you. It is these pursuits that Tamara expected of you, and it is what she expected of herself. Thank you.
Okay, there are some Kleenex in all of the front rows, so please open those bad boys up and pass them around. Thank you, Michelle, volunteer extraordinaire, for preparing us with the Kleenex. Okay, next up we're going to hear from Nora Hyatt, so please welcome Nora to the stage.
I'm taking Barry's advice. I'm doing something very hard. This is hard. If I could have brought a prop with me this morning, it would have been a bellows. You know, those pleated gizmos that you use to turn a little spark into a flame. And that's as good a metaphor as I can imagine for Tamara. She would take a spark, a good idea, or an unfinished plan, and she would blow on it with her big smile and her open heart, encouraging the flicker until it was a flame ready to share with the world. My husband Tom first met Tamara when they started Friends of Holiday Park. They were part of a band of neighbors who worked in the early 90s with the idea that they wanted to come up with a way of making the park safe and welcoming without adding police presence. The result, with the help of a lot of neighbors, was a model for Indy parks, a great playground, a nature center, the woodland trails that Barry mentioned, and a place that welcomes hundreds of neighbors every weekend speaking any number of languages. It was one of Tamara's many gifts to our community. That collaboration led to a wonderful friendship. Over the years, TZ and I did a few paid consulting projects together, and once when my career was in something of a slump, she knew what to do. We sat at her dining room table. She pulled out her big easel and about 7 different colors of markers. Don't know why we needed 7, but she needed 7. And she helped me sort of chart out my work life, what I was good at, what I liked doing, what I didn't ever want to do again, what made me feel smart, what made me bored, and what would be the best fit for me. And within a few weeks, I was asked to be the senior producer of a struggling little radio show that I led for about 15 years. That encouraging hour with Tamara changed my trajectory. Does that sound familiar? Nods, yes. She was the first person I wanted to speak with a couple of years ago when I was cooking up a plan to host an event for women over 60, designed to encourage creative thinking about how we design this period of our lives. She said yes immediately, and then she had a lot of questions. When I looked back at my email traffic from that time, it was the summer and fall of 2019, I noticed a clear trend. I would have an idea and shoot a note to Tamara, and she would respond promptly with clear and supportive suggestions. I bet that sounds familiar. It wasn't, what were you thinking? It's, here, how about this? Those questions helped me focus on how the day would enrich our experiences and deepen connections with each other. I could not have done it without her. What I admired most about TZ was how she gravitated toward other creative people. I never tired of hearing her stories about the reuse of Busch Stadium seats, or the Market Square roof, or the new fashion magazine she was helping get off the ground, or her introducing me to quite a few of you in the room here, telling me what you were doing and how you were changing the city of Indianapolis. On Tamara's last day, October 1st, 2020, she and Karen Gentleman and I were walking laps around Holiday Park, as we did often. I asked Tamara what was on her schedule for the day. It will not surprise any of you that one of her meetings was with a new colleague she was coaching or mentoring or advising. It was all of those things. And sadly, that relationship was cut short. Sadly for all of us. And when Tom and I had the sad privilege of organizing the memorial service for Tamara around the fountain at Holiday Park, we, of course, draped the columns with turquoise ribbons, and we asked people to dress in her honor. There were a lot of women there with white starchy shirts and a popped collar and a very brightly colored jacket. To this day, every time I put on turquoise or pop my white shirt collar, TC is there with me, I'm certain. One more gift that Tamara gave me. At that memorial, I met a wonderful young woman who came up to me and told me that Tamara had been her person. And then she stunned me by asking if I would take on that role. Would you be my person? And she's here today. You're going to hear in a minute from Rima Shahid. I was so privileged. And I do want you to notice this wonderful dress. It was designed by Stephen Garstang, a local designer, for Tamara to wear to the opening of Circle Center Mall, where she played a key marketing role for the Simons. If you look closely, you'll see that the design is the actual blueprint of the mall. Tim is looking for just the right home for this gown, so if you have any ideas, please let me know. Thank you for including me this morning. Tim was very sorry not to be able to be here. He had an out-of-town obligation. He will watch the video, I am sure, and I am certain that you will hear from some of you will hear from him very soon. So thank you again.
Okay, next up we're going to hear from Rima Shahid.
Never knew how short I was. Friends, good morning. I'm going to try to get through this, but I appreciate everyone's patience in advance. I'm usually not an emotional person, but something about Tamara Zahn. Thank you all for gathering here today to celebrate the remarkable life and enduring legacy of my mentor and an Indiana giant, Tamara Zahn. My name is Rima Shahid, and I had the honor to call her a mentor, my confidant, and my lifeline. I was introduced to Tamara in 2015 when I was working at the Muslim Alliance of Indiana through the United Way's Executive Volunteer Services. Fortuitously, I was matched with Tamara as my executive coach. Gosh, little did I know that this chance connection would shape my journey and my life in more ways than I could have imagined. Tamara was a force of nature, a woman of boundless wisdom, compassion, strength, and tough love. She was empowering, and she would see the potential in people, and she saw potential in us that we didn't even know existed. Tamara's intimate understanding of people stood on its own. She knew my strengths and weaknesses intimately and used that knowledge to guide me through the highs and lows of my professional and personal life. I remember one day I was really frustrated, and I called her in tears because I just couldn't understand some financial information that I needed to present for my board. And I told her, "You're supposed to help me." I was really at my wit's end. And I'm on the phone waiting for an answer, and she said to me, "Rima, this is not my problem." I said, "What?" And she goes, "This is not my problem, and I'm not gonna fix this for you. And you're not gonna understand how to do financials right now. But you know what? Your husband, he's really good at financials. And you know what you're really good at? Making a plate of French fries. Make him a plate of French fries and then sit and understand it with him, and it'll be done." And she was right. That plate of French fries went a long way. But that was how we operated. Her practicality, humor, and ability to empower others was a gift. Tamara always recognized my passion for public speaking, but also challenged me to improve my writing skills. We would sit down together at Hubbard and Craven's, and she would say, "Just speak and I'll write." She wrote page after page after page. She believed that effective communication required both eloquence and clarity, and she pushed me to become a more well-rounded advocate. Her guidance and insistence on continuous improvement helped me tremendously. I shared something with Ryan, and I told him I wasn't going to share it today, but heck, you've already seen me crying. When I joined the board, when I joined Women for Change, I was so intimidated by this amazing group of board of directors, these strong, powerful women, that 6 years ago, I actually started to stutter. I would be in a board meeting and I wouldn't be able to speak clearly, and I would stutter. And Tamara told me, "You have two choices. Find your voice or leave the organization." And month after month, I kept telling her, "I can't speak." And she sat down with me and my board chair, or my board chair and me, because she told me to be better at grammar. And she saw I was stuttering, and she said, "This is enough. Find your voice or leave your organization." I found my voice. But it just wasn't her professional mentorship that made Tamara so extraordinary. She was deeply invested in my personal well-being, always going above and beyond to support me. I vividly remember one Eid. I couldn't attend Eid festivities due to a board meeting, and I was really upset. And to my surprise, I heard a knock at our office door, and she just came to wish me a happy Eid and give me a hug. And she told me, "Never do this again. Do not ever schedule a board meeting on a religious holiday. But you've got this. I will never forget that, and we don't have board meetings on Eid." Tamara's passing on that fateful Thursday was a devastating blow for me and everyone that knew her. I was actually supposed to meet her Friday, October 2nd at 11:30 in the morning. The weight of her loss still lingers. And Tamara had a remarkable ability to touch the lives of countless individuals, each one of us feeling as though we were her sole mentee. Her unwavering support and belief in people were truly unparalleled. I actually thought I was her only mentee, and when she passed, the very jealous and possessive side of me was like, "Who are you?" I thought I was the only one. Today, as I look around at this gathering, I see many familiar faces, individuals who, like me, have been fortunate enough to be touched by her grace. Each one of us carries a piece of her legacy, striving to make a difference in the world and in our state, just as she did. In her honor, please, let us continue to uplift one another, to mentor, to empower those around us. Let us remember Tamara's wisdom and resilience, her unwavering belief in our potential, and her extraordinary ability to make everyone she encountered feel seen and valued. Tamara, I hope you're looking down on us today, proud of the impact you have made through each and every one of us. Your spirit lives on in the hearts of those that you have touched. And I know we all promise to carry your torch forward, ensuring your legacy of compassion and mentorship endures. And when I think of her, I cannot help but remember that I would actually introduce her to people as my second mother. Once she met my mom, and I said, "First mom, meet second mom. Thank you." But that was a testament to the depth of my respect, loved, and cherished memories. Last night I was going over my remarks, and my husband said, "You can mention friend," and I said, "No, I respected her so much I didn't think of her as a friend, but someone that just poured into me." She played an invaluable role in shaping me to becoming the person I am today, instilling in me a sense of purpose, courage, and unwavering determination. Tamara, you will hold forever a special place in my heart, and your influence will continue to guide me as I navigate the world. Thank you for being my mentor, my guide, and my second mother.
Hey. Next up, we're going to hear from Karen Gentleman.
Thank you, Ryan. Rima, you're a hard act to follow. So, like Nora, I wore my turquoise today in honor of Tamara. But really, I think Rima had it right, because Tamara was more of a soft blue periwinkle girl. I would like to speak today about being both a personal friend of Tamara's and a professional colleague. So personally, Tamara was my walking buddy. We walked, when she retired from IDI, almost every day, often at Holiday Park, as Nora said, walking round and round and round. Sometimes on the Monon, if we had a bit of extra time. On the white beaches of Siesta Key, which she loved, and on the Cultural Trail. Somewhere out in the megasphere, there's a photograph of the two of us that the Cultural Trail still likes to use walking. Tamara, as a friend, and others have said it, was so calm and so measured and so wise. I always appreciated that. And the questions, oh my God, the questions. She would always ask the best and the most penetrating questions. And sometimes you were just floored. And sometimes if we were in a social setting, her husband Tim and I, we would listen to this thing coming out of her mouth, pinning someone down about something, and he and I would just look at each other like, oh my God, where's this going? But you'd have to answer the question. One day, I'm a bit of a hothead, so Tamara and I were a contrast, and we were walking, and I was ranting and raving and flailing. You know, cyclists used to give me wide berth on the Monon. I was describing an organization she and I were both involved in, and I was so mad because they had had an event honoring an executive director who was leaving, and a lot of people just hadn't shown up. And I'm going, and so didn't come, and so didn't come. And there's this long pause, and Tamara says very quietly, Karen, I like to focus on the people that were there, not the ones that weren't there. Good advice. Professionally, and I may speak a little bit about volunteerism if Ryan doesn't give me the hook, but professionally, I had a long career working for Tamara. When IDI was created in 1993, they hired me as a market research vendor. I was a member of IDI, and it was all on the up and up. We had a competitive bid that I won. So from 1993 to 2012, when she retired from IDI, every other year, we would do surveys of metropolitan Indianapolis residents. And we would ask them, did you go downtown? Why did you go downtown? What did you like? What did you not like? The hard questions. And you know, I have done work, I had my company for 34 years for hundreds of clients. And what usually happens is you give them the report, you know, 20, 30, 50 pages, their eyes glaze over. You know, maybe they read the executive summary, maybe they don't even do that. Maybe they just put it up on the shelf. But I never had a client like Tamara, because she would sit herself with the report and really ruminate over it. Then she would call all of her top managers to sit with me for a couple hours. Sometimes a glass of wine was involved. And we would talk for those 2 hours. What are we going to do? Is this worth pursuing? Let's think about this. That was really hard, hearing people talk about how bad the parking was. A couple of years, it was really hard talking about safety and cleanliness downtown. What are we going to do? She really took it to heart. So volunteer-wise, we had a couple of occasions to get involved, and I always just admired her giving of herself. Others have talked about that perhaps more than I have known her. But I just really appreciated, she was our Renaissance woman, and we miss her so. And you are still with me every day, Tamara, and I love you.
Okay, and last up, we have Lily Smith.
Good morning. I think it was around sometime in 2017 when I was at a large dinner of some kind. You know the type of dinner where you're in a blandly designed hotel ballroom with horribly patterned carpet. There are a million round tables filled with too many people who are all dreading the small talk of the evening. My mom had died the year before, and I was raw, cut open, and walking around all those months later, acutely and constantly aware that it was a new world to navigate. Like the earth was on some kind of tilted axis without her. It was an evening and a dinner like this that felt emptier than ever after grief became my unexpected bedfellow. The dinner had concluded, and I was gathering my stuff, my purse and the unwanted swag, to head out as quickly as possible. And suddenly, this tall, striking woman with a popped collar and pixie cut approached me. I remember instantly feeling this gentle yet powerful force as she stood there in front of me. It was Tamara. And while we didn't know each other at the time, we had mutual friends, and somehow she recognized who I was. She also knew I had recently lost my mom, and without missing a beat or pausing for any small talk post our introduction, she, even as a stranger who didn't know me or my mom, instantly started to talk to me about my mom. A year after my mom's death, the world felt as if it had moved on, yet I was still swirling in grief and longing to connect with anyone about said grief in a real and tangible way. I wish I could tell you I remember the things Tamara said to me that night, but I certainly can tell you I remember what I felt. Connected, relieved, curious, grateful, a little less empty. Tamara blew into my life quite unexpectedly, and from there, we became fast friends. So any therapist will tell you that you shouldn't quit your job, move homes, or make any big changes after experiencing the loss of a loved one. I adhered to that advice, but 2 years after losing my mom, and not long after meeting Tamara, I quit my job. Not only did I quit my job, but I decided to take a year sabbatical, or odyssey really, to recalibrate and realign. Tamara was somewhat recently unwinding from her professional and indie-based life, which had her navigating a new rhythm herself. My work had grown mind-numbing, and I longed for something deeper to grab a hold of with my career. Tamara was moving into a new season of her life that admittedly made her uncomfortable and curious how she would find purpose and meaning in this new iteration. We met often when she was in town or over the phone when she was away. At one of our coffee chats, not long after we first met, she brought me a journal. In true Tamara form, and knowing that I was left-handed, the journal lay flat when opened, which created an ease of use that I rarely find when writing in journals. Insert image of a contorted penhold you all probably have seen before, but maybe never noticed or understood why you watch a lefty angle around the spine of whatever they're trying to write in. Inside the journal, she had cut out and pasted a poem called The Invitation. The poem began with this first line. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. There it was, in writing, exactly what Tamara had done for me that first night we talked. A soulless dinner suddenly bursting with humanity, thanks to Tamara. In reading this first line of the poem, it hit me that Tamara and I were kindred spirits, women in similar yet different life moments, a Venn diagram moment of sorts, forever seeking a life brimming with dreams that could meet our collective heart's longing. And in simplified terms, we were both women in real estate who knew how to navigate a world that had long kept women and many others outside of its spheres of influence. As we continued to meet over that first year during both of our time recalibrating to new phases of our lives, Tamara challenged me to not dim my curiosity, my desire to do things differently, to build meaning, to build community. I listened to her with rapture and a sense of deep comfort. She was speaking truth to much of what I was feeling, and with clarity, she was showing me a woman, herself, who had climbed to the other side of the mountain. And as we passed time together over the years, Tamara came to be more vulnerable as we joked about who was mentoring whom. And without saying it directly, I believe Tamara was, in an overt and at times coded way, sharing her experiences, both personally and professionally, with me as a way to share the lessons she'd lived. Her reminding me not to wear, in her words, a suit of armor, to bring all of myself into each facet of my life, even and especially when professionally I am, like her, often the only woman in the room. In those last years of Tamara's life, she stood tall and with her everlasting popped collar and pixie cut, embodying a confidence, an ease, a certainty in where she had arrived in this world. Yet she was open about those flickering, fleeting moments of self-doubt. She showed me the power of sourcing one's own life from its mere presence. On our last walk together, she shared with me that she had had a stroke in the not too distant past and how vulnerable it left her still, just as she had seen and spoken to that lingering vulnerability of my grief at dinner the first night we met all those years before. I saw a side of Tamara that was childlike and tender in her desire to not be judged or overlooked for the remaining effects of her stroke. We laughed at the bullshit and us worrying what others might perceive of us. We wondered where life was taking us, and we agreed how grateful we were to be there in that moment together walking on the Monon. I never could have known that was the last time I'd see Tamara. Tamara exited my life just as she had entered it, unexpectedly, with force and gentleness.